Ladies and gentlemen, today I want to talk about the other side of detox, the spiritual side of detox, the things that will begin happening to you. Isn't my background sexy? I think it looks pretty good. The things that will start happening to you when you embark on a cleansing journey. Okay? So, most people think detoxification, cleansing, taking care of your health just leads to more vitality. Okay? And the truth is that for a lot of people, the detoxification journey can actually lead to a bit of a spiritual awakening. And I want to talk more about what that awakening looks like, what it feels like, and give you some motivation to continue on your detox journey for said reasons. Okay? So the thing about detox, okay, is that it will cause a massive let's just call it awakening journey into intuition, and your filter begins to open up, almost like when you take hallucinogens. Okay, but the cool thing is with detox is that filter opens up in a very small incremental way, which is very manageable. With psychedelics, you crack open that filter, and then on the other side of that, usually there's a closing of equal and opposite reaction. So with cleansing, you will just slowly but surely open up that filter, which is much more potent and much more sustainable. And what happens is when the body starts clearing, because contrary to what many people think, this is a receiver of consciousness. You have to treat this body like an antenna. Okay. And when the antenna is filthy, it is very, very hard to connect to the right channel. Okay. So in life, there's a lot of noise. Okay. There's a lot of noise. And there's all kinds of different podcasts and teachers and information and YouTube videos and Instagram reels. And we're getting inundated with more and more information. And the crazy thing is, all of that data actually creates more confusion, more paralysis, and it desensitizes and fragments the human vehicle. Because the crazy thing is, we have more information than ever, but people are more lost than ever. We have so many different ways of stimulating ourselves, but we're more bored than ever. That's because it exists there's a conundrum there. The more fragmented, the more digital energy you have access to, the more choices you have, the more desensitized you get. And that desensitization is very dangerous and very harmful to your health, your vitality, your well-being, your emotional regulation. Okay? And then there's noise, and then there's signal, right? Signal is when you hear and feel truth, and you know that there's substance behind it. And that signal is something that is actually going to help you change your life, right? Like one of my superpowers, honestly, and how I've gotten to where I am in my life and why I have genuinely a beautiful life, which, by the way, I'm very grateful for. And it's not like, I'm aware that can get taken away at any moment in time. You have to be grateful when shit goes well, right? It's not like, anyway, I don't want to knock on wood. All right. But anyway, the point is that one of my superpowers is to be able to feel signal. When someone is speaking facts or truth, I don't know the science behind it. I don't know the reasons why. I don't know, I can't scientifically explain to you why my detox process is better than other detox processes. On a scientific level, my knowledge of the human body is pretty minuscule compared to some true scientific badass experts out there. But there's an interesting thing, and there's a famous story where this scientists were studying the bird and naming the bird and saying it's this genus and this classification and all of the different technical specifications of the bird, and listing out all the science that they've studied and analyzed of the bird and all the research. And then the local there was like, "You guys don't know anything about the bird. You don't know the bird. You don't know the bird. You haven't sat there in presence and experienced the bird. Life is meant to be experienced, not analyzed." Right? Now, the scientific pathway is still very valuable, but the saying goes, they don't know the bird. They're explaining the bird. They're trying to explain what they know. They don't know. Knowing, gnosis, knowledge, you can't quite wrap your head around why you know what you know. You just know. The soul, the spirit, the human vessel knows. There's a knowledge. And that's how I've gotten to where I am, and that's how I teach other people. It's like, I can't tell you why I think this wheatgrass is the best or why this supplement is the best. I just know. I know. I put it in my body. I see what it does. I feel the vibration. I've worked with thousands of people, and I have a gnosis about certain things, right? And so everyone is entitled to learn that skill set where you trust your own knowingness. And that's what signal is. Signal is like, no, I know this is the path I'm going to take. I know it's going to be, I know this is the right path. Right? And you know, again, you could analyze why it's not. You can mentally convince yourself why it's not. You can scientifically explain why it's not. You can, you know, just like with the detox process, scientifically, you should do this, you should do that. Well, take this nutrient at this time and this and this and this. It's like, holy shit, this is too complicated. I'm just going to stay with my knowing. That channel of knowing is how I navigate through life. And it keeps things simple and it keeps things clean. Okay. And I don't just disregard or hate science, but I prefer to just use my own knowingness. And that's what signal is, right? You start feeling truth. You start feeling what's not true. You start feeling the spaces behind people's voices. You start understanding what's real and what's not real. And then you create this quiet internal compass, okay? Instead of constant mental chatter. Most people are just narrating their life on a moment-to-moment basis. You know, it's like you're looking at something and then you're narrating it. A lot of my male clients will say, like, they'll be in nature with their wife or their girlfriend, and their girlfriend is so happy and like, did you see the trees? Oh my God, did you see the squirrel? And the men are just like stuck in their heads, just like thinking about work and ruminating on like, why am I not happy? Why can't I be present? Yeah, I saw the squirrel, honey. Okay, I'm miserable. Why am I here? What are we doing? How do I advance my life? How do I make more money? Am I okay? Am I safe? Shit, is this going to happen? Is that going to happen? Oh, that's a cool tree. I wonder about the tree. I wonder what the bark does. I wonder. It's just nonstop. Right? There's not an ability to just actually be, okay? And when you cleanse this vehicle, you will have more space for beingness. And that constant mental chatter, that narration, it dies down. And you realize when that thing goes away, oh my goodness, I was so busy, I never actually was alive for one day of my life. All right? And so this is a really powerful sort of transition when you can move into beingness and when you can quiet the internal chatter to actually be present with life. That is where nourishment comes in. The thing is, in the narration, you cannot experience nourishment. It doesn't matter if you are in paradise in Bora Bora, in the best, most beautiful, luxurious hotel on the island, costs $5,000 a night. If you can't get out of your mental chatter, you're in prison. And that's why I always say, like, you could be suicidal in paradise and you can be in bliss in prison. Because really life is happening here. It's happening in your nervous system. Okay, that's where your life happens. It happens in between your ears and it happens in your nervous system. And so through the detox process, you remove what blocks your intuition, because toxins create biochemical havoc. And then what happens is everything is just inflamed and flared up and confused, and you don't have your birthright. When you are very toxic, you lose your birthright, you lose your free will, because your biochemistry is so fucked up, for lack of better words, that you're kind of a slave to it. Like, I remember back in the day, I could not experience joy no matter how much I meditated. I could not calm my anxiety down no matter how much I meditated, because biochemically, I was so screwed. And so I don't even know that I had that much free will. I was just a slave to my wounds and my past and my toxins, and my all of this stuff just owned me, right? So True sovereignty is an inside job. There's a lot of people out here on YouTube that are just like, once you have financial freedom, you can do any, and they'll actually talk as if they are sovereign. So it's like you see these influencers who have like the Ferrari and this and that, and they're just like, I've even seen them where they'll like talk like, you broke people, they'll talk negatively about broke people, or like this is the life, this is freedom, this is I've proven to everyone that I'm successful. But guys, this is the booby trap. I'm not saying sitting in a cave is sovereign either, but you want to be a master of both worlds. You want to be a master of your internal world, and to be actually clear, and to actually know to know that you're not reacting to yourself, and you want to have success in the outside world. Both are needed for sovereignty. Okay? So nonetheless, when you keep clearing these toxins, you remove what was blocking your intuition. Okay? It's not so much of a gaining of intuition, but rather a remove what was blocking it. Okay? And I want to talk about one other item here on this detox journey. Okay? This is two separate awakenings that you can have. The first one is signal strengthens. The next one is you begin to connect to sensitivity in a much more potent way. In an embodied, powerful way. A lot of men are terrified of sensitivity, okay? They feel that sensitivity is a weakness. They feel that sensitivity is fragility, okay? And at first, when you go on this detox journey, you will begin to get more sensitive. You will begin to feel more. Being numb is not a good life path, even if you're really rich. What happens is really rich people are really numb on average, and they spend that money to try and feel, and they do peak experiences, psychedelics, drugs, partying, fancy cars, because they just want to feel something. Feeling should happen on a moment-to-moment basis without the use of anything external. Feeling life. At this point in my life, I will walk into a grocery store and I will look at someone who has a difficult life, or whatever. It could be any spectrum of the human experience. It could be someone who's really arrogant, or someone who's talking, nasty to the clerk, or someone who's really helpless, or someone who's had a really hard life, and you could see how much they're struggling. And I will feel empathic emotions about that individual. And I've learned how to make that so that it doesn't take over my system, and I can just be like, okay, not me. But I will feel what that human being is going through, and it touches me. And some would say like, wow, that sounds really agonizing, or that's like, wow, that's really not productive. But that is the most beautiful thing of the human experience. If you can't feel one another, you are trapped on your own private island, and you're missing the point of this existence of being alive. So when you open up this filter and you cleanse this vehicle and you start becoming a pure receiver of consciousness versus all of the dirt and the mud and the chaos and the news and the media and what your teachers taught you, what your parents taught you, you get to have more life. It's your nervous system calibrating and turning back on to the way you were when you were younger, because you were sensitive when you were younger. We all were. And that's a beautiful thing. You want to learn how to juggle strength and sensitivity. You don't want to be too sensitive. You don't want to be too strong and numb and shielded, right? But sensitivity makes your life richer. It also allows you to calibrate to subtle energies, and allows you to make deeper, more refined choices in your life as far as who you connect with and who you associate with, and where you invest your money, your time, and your energy. And when you're numb to sensitivity, it's very easy to get caught in the wrong path, because you can get seduced, you can get hijacked by your own emotions if you're not in touch with them, and other people can hijack your whatever you hide from, whatever you repress, it's actually a weak point. It becomes a vulnerability, right? When you are owning your own sensitivity, when you know it, when you embody it, when you embrace it, when you dialogue with it, you can't be a slave to it the same way you would be if you completely ignored it. Okay? So that is really two of some of the most beautiful things that begin to happen when you're cleansing, right? You got the signal restoring, just that noise just totally gets blocked out. Okay. And the other thing is sensitivity becoming a superpower. Okay. At first it can be overwhelming, but it's your nervous system turning back on. You start perceiving subtle energies and unspoken truth. And what once felt normal now feels toxic or misaligned. You begin to have no tolerance for BS or no tolerance for sickness. You get what you tolerate in this universe. And even though toxins are very real and life circumstances are very real and people are sick for a multitude of reasons, on some level, people tolerate sickness. You get what you tolerate. So you have to learn how to have no sickness in your life, no sick relationships, sick dynamics. All sickness has to go if you want to heal. Okay? And I'll leave it with this. Sensitivity is not fragility. It's clarity. It's awakening. It's beautiful. It's enriching. It's nourishing. So more to come in future videos. I hope you enjoyed this video. Give me a like. Give me a subscribe. Give me a comment. I read all the comments. Genuinely do. See you soon, guys.